Okay, so recently in the news, the mothers of Mexico went on strike. You saw them. They had pots and pans and were out out near El Zócalo, and they're saying that they want the men to participate in the housework. So statistically here in the U.S., only 50% of men help the women with housework, and that's even less in a Latin American culture. What do you think this means now that women in the heart of Mexico are demanding that men become more, what you could call more modern or more integrated into the lives of the family?
They're awake. The women are awake and they're not taking it from the man.
Good for them.
That's what I think.
Do you help with the housework, Tony?
Yes.
I do. I throw out the trash.
That's a start, Tony. You have a long way to go, but that's a
I do the dishes every once
start.
in a while when I'm home. But I think that we have to ask the question, how many hours a week are these men working when they come home?
Well, what's going
before
on?
they're expected.
This happened also, in just to make it really broad, in the whole world in Soviet Russia, as you know, when communists came in and women began working and they pulled them out of the house to work, same statistics. The men and the wife were working the same hours, but the women were put in charge of everything. There was very little change in the dynamic at the home. The men didn't factor in the woman's tasks during the day. So
everyone I talked to before I came on this show, professional women, pretty well said the same thing. Yes, my husband works. Yes, he has a very good income. Yes, I'm educated. I have an excellent income, but I still go home and take care of the kids. I still do the shopping. When the kids get sick, I'm the one that has to take the time off work and take the kids to the doctor. So
they need to get some help at home.
Yes,
I think they need a maid.
If they're working 2 jobs and they're doing well, what is she doing housework? Hire somebody to do it.
Here's what I think,
That's
Chris.
right.
I think,
I agree
what's
with
the
you.
deal?
a lot of men, I'm not gay, not that there's anything wrong with it. I love women. But I think a lot of men today are trying to hold on to the old definitions. I'm the man, I bring home the money, put my feet up on the chair, watch the TV, bring me my dinner, right?
Oh, we used to take my dad's shoes off. When we take his shoes
well,
off.
there we go. But at the same time, women are having their own careers. They're going to college. They're being educated. They're empowering themselves, which is such a turn on. If you're a real man, you see that as a turn on. Okay. So we got to redefine what our chores are as a man and as a woman in a relationship. And part of that is taking responsibility in what in the old days was considered women's tasks.
I think the more secure a man, the more he will let his wife be the complete person.
But society doesn't allow that security of men. There's a group of
Women
men
have to be very careful who they marry.
But it starts in the home,
that's
though.
part of the
rule.
key.
Be careful who you marry.
No, there's a group of men right now, and they're called hombres nobles. And they come together and they talk about parenting, they talk about their responsibilities, they talk about being nurturing, and not to allow society to say you can't or you can't. It's what's in you and how you want to work in your partnership.
But it's a very small group, right, Berta?
It's just 2 people.
No.
Hombre and nobles. So they're hombres nobles, technically, yes.
Well,
they have a lot to grow.
I'm aware that there's a couple of few
recruiting.
hundred, and they're in California. But the reality is maybe there should be more. Maybe in relationship to the rest of the population of what is 253 million, there should be more. But,
I really agree with Berta in that if I find in my own personal evolution that I've had to become more evolved, in a sense of like developing more of a feminine, nurturing side to me. And I think it's been good for me.
Less of a man.
No, it doesn't.
No, it makes me stronger of a man.
To a woman, I heard someone say there's nothing sexier, that nothing turns a woman more on than to see a man holding a baby or helping around the house.
A man breastfeeding is so beautiful. I was just gleek. Listen.
Depends what you mean by that.
I have a theory. Okay. As I was doing my research, I realized that Latino men, we worship our mothers. It's our madrecitas. We saw what they struggled and what they went through to make our lives possible to advance us, and how we idolize La Virgencita de Guadalupe. Also, when you get Latino men together, they go where men usually go, and there's an objectifying of women in relation to men. I think sometimes old world cultures can idolize a woman or they can oppress a woman, but they can't be unequal to a woman. That's just too much of a maze in their head. I'm going to throw that out to you guys. That's my theory, that maybe it's easier to do that, but to face a woman directly, it's stressful.
Well, in the movie The Other Conquest, when the Virgen is sort of put up as the epitome of what should save you and what you should be for, and yet in the same vein, when the indigenous people were sacrificing to Tonantzin, that was not viewed as appropriate because what they were sacrificing was not acceptable to whatever the cultured world was. So they brought the Virgen, and the Virgen eventually evolved into the Virgen de Guadalupe, or, you know, our beliefs are that the miracle with Juan Diego happened. But at any rate, now the Virgen is probably put in a position where she's popular culture. I mean, she's popularized. She's taken away from where she was in terms of
Being commercialized.
too commercialized. You know, the Virgen
You can
has
get
been
Our Lady of
commercialized.
Guadalupe air spray.
Everywhere, everywhere.
You know, and it
Everywhere.
smells delightful.
You know what? You're talking about equal. You have to, I think, differentiate between equal and the same. I think part of the downside of feminism has been that they've been trying to make women the same as men. We're very
Right.
different. We're wired differently.
Right.
So that, yeah, we can be equals.
Right.
And that means we have to
with that.
accept each other's differences.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, and
Agreed.
meet each other kind of halfway, so that I'm able to be more like you, the woman, and you're able to be more like me, the man, or understand,
And-
you know,
and we don't-
who we are.
But I don't want my
threatened
woman to
by
be more
each
like a
other.
man, so I
Right.
agree with you.
Well, but I want my woman to be able to be independent and assertive.
Oh,
yeah,
That's what I want
you
from
know,
my daughter.
Right.
Yeah.
And I certainly I enjoy that from my wife.
Right.
You know, I don't
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to just be someone who's just going to do whatever I tell him to do. I
Oh,
like
And
I
I
think-
like that give and take.
Biologically speaking, that's what makes us attracted to each other. I think many times what we see as masculine, you know, the good side of machismo, it's there for a reason, because if you look at the animal kingdom, the men went out to kill the food and
The
bring back
hunting.
the food,
Right.
and the moms had to protect the home. So who's to say, oh, that was matriarchal, oh, that was patriarchal, because both were very important. Because if the woman hadn't stayed there to watch the little cubs, to take care after the children, then what would have happened? There would have been no home.
But I think we have to also identify the male and the female in us and accept that and work with it and keep a balance. You know,
I think the reason why the Lady of Guadalupe is so idolized is because men don't want anything to do with what the women do. Thank you for
We'll be
doing
back
all
with
those
more
things.
Cafe California. No, we're not. We're done with Cafe California. I wanted to go on forever. I have a Theo who's got a tattoo of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and he's like put on a lot of weight, so it looks like she's like retaining water. Now, that's true. I want to talk about something that's kind of depressing. I don't know if you know this, that right now 1/4 of all American Latino households are run by a single or unmarried Latina. You know, so we're now facing a
What percentage was that?
1/4 of all families are headed by a single Latino or
and they're
unmarried.
probably
Send your questions and comments to www.kcet.org/feedback and visit www.kcet.org. Café California would like to say muchas gracias to the KCET Community Advisory Board and Telemundo.